I used to think the scariest thing in a marriage was silence. The kind where you can feel something is off, but you can't prove it. The kind that creeps into your bed at night and lies between you like a third body. I didn't know the scariest thing was a phone call in the middle of a random Tuesday afternoon. My name doesn't matter. We live in a suburb outside of Denver, the kind of neighborhood where everyone has matching mailboxes and kids ride bikes in lazy circles after school. My husband, Eric, works for a logistics company downtown. He's been there 8 years. Solid job, good benefits. The kind of steady, boring, dependable career that makes you feel safe enough to sign a 30-year mortgage. At least that's what I thought. The overtime started about 6 months ago. At first, it made sense. They were expanding, new contracts, holiday rush. He'd come home exhausted, loosen his tie in the kitchen, kiss me on the cheek, and collapse on the couch while I reheated dinner. I didn't question it. We were saving for a kitchen remodel. Extra money was welcome. But overtime became every night. He'd text around 5, running late, don't wait up. Sometimes 9, sometimes 10, once almost midnight. I'd sit at the dining room table with my laptop open, pretending to work, but really just staring at the front door. The house felt different when he wasn't there. Bigger, colder, every sound amplified. The hum of the fridge, the creak of the stairs, my own breathing. When he did come home, he smelled different. Not perfume exactly, just not office air, not stale coffee and printer toner and traffic, something cleaner, almost sweet. I told myself it was a new air freshener in the building, or maybe someone in his department changed shampoo. I felt stupid even thinking about it. One night I asked, "Is everything okay at work?" I said, trying to sound casual as I loaded the dishwasher. "Yeah, why?" "You've just been working a lot." He didn't look at me. He was scrolling through his phone, thumb moving fast. "Big project, I told you." "I know. I just miss you." That made him look up, and for a split second I saw something in his eyes. Not guilt, not exactly, just irritation. "It's temporary," he said. "You want the new kitchen or not?" That shut me up. I hated that it shut me up. I started noticing smaller things. He guarded his phone more, took it into the bathroom, flipped it face down on the table, changed his passcode. When I asked why, he laughed like I was crazy. "You've never even cared about my phone before." "I don't," I said quickly. It just seemed different. "You're overthinking." Maybe I was. I'd been home more since cutting back my hours at the marketing firm. Too much time to think, too much quiet. Then there was the Friday he said he had to go in just for a couple hours. It was raining, that slow, steady Colorado rain that makes the sky look bruised. He kissed me at the door. "Should be back by 6, he said. He didn't come home until almost 11. I called once around 8, straight to voicemail. He texted 20 minutes later. Still in a meeting, phone died. When he walked in, his hair was dry. I remember that detail so clearly it still makes my stomach turn. It was pouring outside. He didn't carry an umbrella, but his hair was completely dry. "Did it stop raining?" I asked. He paused just a fraction of a second. "Yeah, cleared up." It hadn't. I'd been standing at the window. I didn't call him out. I don't know why. Fear, maybe. Fear that if I pushed too hard, I'd hear something I couldn't unhear. So I did what a lot of women do when they suspect something but can't face it. I went quiet. I watched. I memorized patterns. He left earlier in the mornings, came home later, showered almost immediately when he got back, started going to the gym again, suddenly obsessed with looking good, bought new shirts, slimmer fit. He stopped touching me, not dramatically, just gradually. Fewer kisses, fewer casual brushes of his hand against my waist. In bed, he'd turn away faster. One night I reached for him. He gently moved my hand. "I'm exhausted," he muttered. I lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling this heavy wave of humiliation wash over me, like I was begging for scraps from my own husband. Still, I had no proof. Until a call. It was a Wednesday, around 3 in the afternoon. I was folding laundry in the living room, some daytime talk show murmuring in the background. My phone rang. Unknown number, local area code. I almost ignored it. Something made me answer. "Hello?" "Hi, is this Mrs. Lawson?" A woman's voice, professional, calm. "Yes." "This is Megan from Human Resources at Silverline Logistics. I'm calling regarding Eric Lawson." My heart immediately started pounding, hard, fast, the kind that makes your fingertips tingle. "Is he okay?" I asked. There was a slight pause. "Yes, he's fine. We actually need to verify some information. He listed this number as his emergency contact, but we've been trying to reach him about some paperwork and haven't been able to." I swallowed. "Paperwork?" "Yes, there seems to be some confusion regarding his employment status." I actually laughed, this weird, nervous sound. "What do you mean?" Another pause, longer this time. "Ma'am, your husband hasn't worked here for almost 4 months." The room tilted. I don't know how to explain it. It was like my brain rejected the sentence, like it bounced off the inside of my skull and refused to stick. "That's not possible," I said automatically.
He's there every day. He's been working overtime. I'm sorry, she said gently. Eric resigned in May. We processed his final paycheck on May 18th. May. He was September. My legs gave out and I sank onto the couch, still holding the phone. There has to be a mistake, I whispered. There isn't, she said. He accepted another opportunity. That's what he told us. Accepted another opportunity. My husband had been leaving the house every morning in slacks and a button-down shirt, kissing me goodbye, telling me he was stuck in traffic, complaining about clients, talking about projects that didn't exist. For 4 months. Why are you calling now? I asked, barely recognizing my own voice. We're conducting an internal audit and needed clarification on some insurance forms. We were unaware he hadn't updated his contact information. When we couldn't reach him by email, we tried the number on file. I stared at the front door. The same door he walked through every night, pretending to be tired from a job he didn't have. Thank you, I said mechanically. I hung up. The house was completely silent, except for the TV. Some woman was laughing about a cooking disaster. It felt obscene. 4 months. Where had he been going? I walked into our bedroom like I was in a trance. Opened his closet. All his work clothes were still there. Suits, ties, neatly hung. His laptop back by the dresser. His cologne on the nightstand. It all looked normal. Too normal. I went to the kitchen table and opened our shared bank account on my laptop. My hands were shaking so badly I mistyped the password twice. The last direct deposit from Silverline was dated May 18th. After that, there were smaller deposits, random amounts, not consistent, not the same as his salary. I felt cold, physically cold. He hadn't told me he quit. He hadn't told me he was fired. He hadn't told me anything. Every overtime night, every late meeting.
Every exhausted sigh. A lie. My mind started racing through every possibility. Gambling, debt, drugs, another job he was embarrassed about, or the one I didn't want to say out loud, another woman. I replayed the rain, the dry hair, the new shirts, the phone face down, the shower as soon as he walked in, the way he flinched when I touched him. I didn't cry. That's the part that scares me the most when I think back on it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call him. I just sat there, staring at the numbers on the screen, feeling something inside me shift, like a foundation cracking. He was due home around 9 that night. Late meeting, he texted that morning. I looked at the clock. 3:42 p.m. 5 more hours. For the first time since we'd been married, I realized I had absolutely no idea who my husband really was. And I had 5 hours to decide what I was going to do when he walked through that door. I didn't move from that kitchen table for almost an hour. The clock on the microwave kept ticking forward like nothing in the world had changed. 4:01, 4:17, 4:32. The late afternoon sun shifted across the hardwood floors, warm and ordinary, and I felt like I was sitting inside someone else's life. 4 months. I pulled up the bank statements going back to May. His final paycheck from Silverline hit on May 18th, just like Megan from HR said. After that, there were random deposits labeled with different company names I didn't recognize. Some weeks nothing. Some weeks a few $100s. Once almost $2,000. None of it matched his old salary. We had savings, but they'd been slowly shrinking. I hadn't noticed because I trusted him. Because I never imagined I needed to check. I opened our credit card accounts next. My hands were steadier now. Cold. Focused. There were charges I didn't recognize. A boutique hotel downtown. Not once. 3 times. 2 separate weekends and 1 random Tuesday night. A restaurant in Cherry Creek we'd only been to once for our anniversary. I remembered that dinner because I'd worn a red dress and he told me I looked incredible. That charge was from a Thursday in July. The amount was for 2 people. Wine included. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Maybe it was business, I tried to tell myself. Maybe the new job involved clients. Maybe he didn't want to worry me until it was stable. But why lie about Silverline? Why pretend to still work there? Why the hotel? I clicked into the phone bill next. We shared a family plan. I scrolled through the call logs for his number. One number appeared over and over. Daily. Sometimes multiple times a day. Long calls. 40 minutes. An hour. Once, 2 hours and 12 minutes. The area code was local. I copied it into Google. No name attached.
Just a wireless carrier. My chest felt tight, like someone was slowly cinching a belt around my ribs. I stood up and walked to the window. Our neighbor, Tom, was mowing his lawn. A dog barked somewhere down the street. Everything looked so painfully normal. How long had this been going on before May? Was losing the job connected to her? Did he quit for her? Was he fired because of her? The more I thought, the clearer one thing became. He wasn't just lying about overtime. He had built an entire second reality. I went upstairs and opened his nightstand drawer. Empty except for a charger and a random stack of old receipts. I checked his closet again. Suits still there. Shoes lined up. Everything looked staged, like a model home no one actually lived in. Then I remembered the old iPad in the office. The one he used years ago before upgrading. It was synced to his Apple account. Or at least it used to be. I walked into the small spare bedroom we called an office. The air felt stale. I pulled the iPad from the shelf and pressed the power button. It lit up. My heart started pounding again. There were notifications on the screen. Messages. iMessage. I hesitated. This was the line. The one you don't uncross. Once you see it, you can't pretend you didn't. But he had already crossed every line. I unlocked it. The passcode was his old one. The one he'd changed on his phone. The messages loaded slowly. And then her name appeared at the top of the list. Ashley. No last name. Just Ashley with a red heart next to it. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might throw up. I tapped it. The thread went back months. April. March. February. It hadn't started in May. It started while he was still at Silverline. I scrolled. Inside jokes. Memes. Complaints about work. Complaints about me. She's been so distant lately, he'd written in March. I felt like I'd been slapped. In March, I'd planned a weekend getaway for us in Breckenridge. I'd surprised him with lift tickets. I thought we were reconnecting. He'd texted her from the hotel bathroom while I was in the shower. Can't wait to see you Monday. This weekend is torture. I actually gasped out loud reading that. Torture. The messages turned more intimate as the months went on. Photos I couldn't unsee. Plans. Details about meeting at that boutique hotel downtown. The same one on the credit card. One message from May 16th stopped me cold. I'm going to quit. I can't stand being there knowing you're with him. She worked at Silverline. That's why he resigned. Not for a better opportunity. Not for some secret career move. For her. Another message from her. Are you sure? What about your wife? And his reply. I'll figure it out. I can't keep living like this. I love you. I felt something inside me shatter. Not crack. Shatter. I'd always thought if he cheated, the worst part would be the sex. The physical betrayal. It wasn't. It was that sentence. I love you. 4 months of pretending. 4 months of kissing me goodbye every morning and driving to God knows where. 4 months of coming home and crawling into our bed after being with her. My vision blurred, but still no tears came. Just this hollow, echoing rage. I scrolled further down. The most recent messages were from this morning. Her. Are you coming over tonight? Him. Yeah. Told her I have a late meeting. Her. I hate sneaking around. Him. Not much longer. I promise. Not much longer. What did that mean? Was he planning to leave me? Or was he telling her whatever she needed to hear to keep her around? I checked the time. 6:08 p.m. He wouldn't be home for hours. I sat there in that small office, the iPad glowing in my hands. And for the first time, I let myself imagine confronting him, throwing the device in his face, watching him scramble. But another thought crept in. If I confronted him tonight, he'd lie. He'd twist it. He'd cry. He'd say it was a mistake, that it didn't mean anything, except it clearly meant everything. I needed to know how deep this went. I opened our joint savings account again. There had been a transfer 3 weeks ago. $10,000. Moved into an account I didn't recognize. I clicked into the details. It was in his name only. He had opened a separate account. My hand started shaking again. He wasn't just cheating. He was planning. I went back to the messages, scrolling for clues. They talked about apartments once. Just once. Her. I found a place in Lohi. It's small but cute. Him. Send me the link. Her. You really think we can do this? Him. I'm already halfway out. Halfway out. I thought about the nights he'd turned his back to me in bed. The way he'd seemed emotionally checked out. The gym obsession.
The new shirts. He wasn't exhausted. He was detaching. From me. From us. I finally felt the tears then. Hot and silent, sliding down my face while I stared at the words that were dismantling my entire life. All those nights I doubted myself, wondered if I was paranoid, too needy, too suspicious. He had been building a future without me while eating the dinners I cooked. At 7:12 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from him. Meeting ran long, probably home around 9:30. I stared at the message. He was with her. Right now. I could drive downtown. The hotel charges told me exactly where they liked to meet. I could catch them. The image flashed in my mind so vividly it made my chest ache. Him opening a hotel room door, her behind him, the look on his face when he saw me. But I didn't move. Instead, I typed back, "No problem. Be safe." My hands were steady when I sent it. Something had shifted inside me during those hours. The panic had burned off, leaving something colder, sharper. If he was already halfway out, I wasn't going to beg him to stay. But I also wasn't going to let him walk away with my savings, my house, and some rewritten version of our story where I was the distant wife who pushed him into someone else's arms. He thought he was managing this, controlling the timeline. He had no idea I knew. And for the first time since that HR call, I felt a small, dangerous sense of power. I stood up, wiped my face, and went into the bathroom to look at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red, but clear, focused. He was coming home at 9:30, and when he walked through that door, I wasn't going to be the woman he thought he had fooled for 4 months. I just hadn't decided yet what version of me he was about to meet. By the time the garage door finally rumbled open at 9:38 p.m., I had rehearsed at least 10 different versions of what I was going to do. In one version, I exploded the second he stepped inside, threw the iPad at his chest, screamed Ashley's name, watched his face collapse in real time. In another, I pretended everything was normal, smiled, kissed him, let him think he was still in control while I quietly got my affairs in order. There was even a darker version where I drove downtown, found that boutique hotel, and forced him to see what he'd done to me. But when I heard his keys hit the kitchen counter and his voice call out, "Hey babe," all the rehearsed lines evaporated. I was sitting on the couch, lamp on, TV muted, waiting. He walked into the living room and stopped for a split second when he saw me still up. "You're still awake?" he asked, loosening his tie. His hair was slightly damp this time, not from rain, from a shower, at her place. "Couldn't sleep," I said evenly. He gave me that small, distracted smile, the one that didn't reach his eyes anymore. Long day. I watched him. Every movement, the way he avoided direct eye contact for more than a second, the way he placed his phone face down on the coffee table without thinking about it. "Meeting go okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just tedious stuff." What I felt wasn't even rage in that moment. It was disbelief at how easily the lie rolled off his tongue. No hesitation, no stutter. "You smell different," I said. He froze for half a heartbeat. Then he picked up his collar and sniffed lightly, like he was confused. "Probably the conference room. They clean the carpets." "Conference room." I nodded slowly. He sat down in the armchair across from me, instead of next to me. There was space between us. Physical. Emotional. "Everything okay?" he asked, finally looking at me more directly. "You seem off." I almost laughed. "Do you ever feel like you don't really know someone?" I asked quietly. His eyebrows pulled together. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Just a question." He leaned back, crossing his arms. Defensive. "Where is this coming from? From HR? From Ashley? From hotel rooms and secret bank accounts? But I didn't say that. I've just been thinking," I said. "About us." That word made him visibly tense. "What about us? When was the last time you were happy?" I asked. It wasn't the question I'd planned. It just came out. He looked thrown. "I am happy. Are you?" Silence.
He looked down at his hands, and that tiny moment of hesitation confirmed everything. He wasn't even fighting for the lie anymore. He was just tired. "Work's been stressful," he said finally. "That's all. Work. The imaginary job he didn't have." I stood up slowly and walked to the kitchen. He followed me with his eyes. "You hungry?" I asked. "I grabbed something already." Of course he did. I leaned against the counter, studying him from across the room. This man I'd loved for 9 years, the man I thought I knew better than anyone. "Eric," I said softly. "Yeah? If there was something going on, something big, you'd tell me, right?" His jaw tightened. Of course I would. Another lie. So smooth. So practiced. I felt that cold clarity again. He wasn't going to confess. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. He would drag this out until he had his apartment lined up, his finances separated, his story polished. I walked back into the living room and picked up his phone from the coffee table. His eyes sharpened immediately. "What are you doing?" "Relax," I said. "I just want to see something." He stood up fast. Too fast. "Why do you need my phone?" "Because I'm your wife." That's not an answer. There it was. The panic. The crack in his composure. I held the phone loosely in my hand, not trying to unlock it, just watching him unravel. "You've changed your passcode," I said calmly. He ran a hand through his hair. "That's not a crime?" "No. It's just new. You're being paranoid." That word again. Paranoid. I felt something inside me harden. "Did you quit Silverline in May?" I asked. The color drained from his face so quickly it was almost surreal. "What? Did you quit your job in May?" For a second, he didn't breathe. "Who told you that?" So it was true. No denial. Just shock at how I knew. I got a call from HR today. The silence that followed felt thick and suffocating. He looked like a man caught mid-crime, not just exposed, but cornered. "I was going to tell you," he said finally. "When?" My voice was still calm. Too calm. "After another 4 months? After you drained our savings?" "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" He started pacing, avoiding my eyes now. "I didn't want to worry you. Things got complicated." "Complicated how?" "I wasn't happy there." "So you quit and pretended to still work there every day?" I asked. "You left the house at 8 every morning and came home at 10 at night pretending to work overtime?" He stopped pacing. "I was figuring things out." "By staying in hotels?" I asked quietly. That hit. His head snapped toward me. "Did you go through my stuff?" I went through our credit card statements. His breathing got heavier. Faster. "It's not what you think," he said. I almost admired the audacity of that sentence. "Then tell me what to think." He didn't answer. Instead, he said her name. Ashley. Hearing it out loud in our living room made my stomach flip. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he said quickly. "It just did. Just happened. Like slipping on ice. Like spilling coffee." "How long?" I asked. He hesitated. "Since February. Longer than I'd even known." "Do you love her?" I asked. That question seemed to wound him more than anything else.
He looked at the floor, then at me. "I don't know," which meant yes. I felt my heart crack in a way I didn't know was possible without sound. "You told her you love her," I said. His eyes widened. "You read—" "Yes." Silence. He looked ashamed now. But not because he'd betrayed me, because he'd been caught. "I was confused," he said weakly. "Things with us felt distant." I stared at him, stunned by the revision. "Distant?" I repeated. "I planned trips. I asked you what was wrong. I tried to touch you." He didn't argue, because he couldn't. "I didn't know how to tell you I was unhappy," he said quietly. "So you built a second life." His shoulders sagged. "I didn't plan it like this." "But you did plan," I said. "The separate account, the apartment listings." His head jerked up. "You saw that too?" I nodded. The realization hit him all at once. There was nothing left hidden. The entire illusion had collapsed. "I was going to tell you," he repeated, but there was no conviction in it. "When?" I whispered. He didn't answer. And that was the moment I understood something terrifying. He hadn't left yet. Not because he loved me. He hadn't left because he was scared. Scared of the financial fallout. Scared of how it would look. Scared of starting over. I was the stable option. The safety net. Ashley was the excitement. "You were going to let me find out the hard way," I said slowly. "You were going to move out once you had everything lined up." "That's not fair," he shot back, but his voice lacked heat. "Fair?" I laughed softly. "You lied to me every single day for 4 months." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw it. Regret, but not enough. "I never wanted to hurt you," he said. "But you did," I replied. Over and over. The room felt too small, the walls too close. "So what now?" he asked, almost helplessly. It was almost insulting. He had detonated our marriage and was now asking me for the next step. I took a slow breath. "You move into the guest room tonight," I said. "Tomorrow, we start separating finances officially." His face tightened. "You're not even willing to talk about fixing this?" I stared at him. "Are you willing to end it with her?" I asked. He didn't answer, and that was my answer. The man I married would have fought. This version just stood there, silent, weighing options. I felt something inside me settle, not peacefully, but definitively. "I won't compete," I said quietly. "If you want her, you don't get me too." He looked like he wanted to argue, to say something dramatic, but nothing came. He picked up his phone slowly. "I'll get some things," he muttered. As he walked toward the hallway, I felt the first real wave of grief. Heavy, crushing, but underneath it was something else. Clarity. He thought the worst part was over, that the secret was out. The fight had happened, and now it was just logistics. He didn't realize this was only the beginning, because there were still things he didn't know, and I wasn't done yet. He slept in the guest room that night, or at least he closed the door and stayed in there. I didn't sleep at all. I lay in our bed staring at the ceiling fan spinning in slow, lazy circles, listening to every small sound in the house. The pipes shifting, the refrigerator humming, the quiet shuffle of his footsteps at one point, around 2 a.m. It felt like there was a stranger 10 feet away from me. At 6:30 a.m., his alarm went off, the same one he'd used for years when he still had a real job to go to. I heard it buzz through the wall, then stop. Silence. No shower running. No closet door sliding open. He wasn't going anywhere today. I got up first, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, already logged into our accounts. I'd barely slept, but I felt sharper than I had in months, like my brain had switched into survival mode. He walked in around 7. Sweatpants, t-shirt, no tie, no cologne. We just looked at each other for a second. I called in some freelance stuff, he said awkwardly, as if that explained everything. "I'll work from home today." Freelance stuff. That must have been the random deposits. I didn't ask what kind. I didn't care. I scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney, my voice steady. Tomorrow at 10. His face tightened instantly. "You moved fast. You moved faster," I replied. He flinched at that. "Can we not just talk?" he asked. "Without lawyers." "We talked last night," I said. "You were in love with someone else." I said I didn't know. "You told her you loved her." Silence again. That same heavy, useless silence. He dragged a hand down his face. "This isn't how I pictured this going." I almost smiled at the absurdity. "How did you picture it?" He didn't answer, because the truth was obvious. He pictured walking out clean, calm, controlled, with his savings separated, an apartment ready, and me blindsided, but composed enough not to explode.
He didn't picture me calling attorneys within 12 hours. Have you talked to her? I asked. His eyes flicked toward his phone on the counter. Not since last night. I should, I said. She deserves to know what's happening. That surprised him. You're serious about this? He said quietly. I'm not an option, I replied. That landed. He left the kitchen without another word. A few minutes later, I heard the back door slide open and shut. He went outside to make the call. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. Instead, I pulled up the transfer history again. That $10,000 he'd moved into a separate account. I'd already taken screenshots. Sent them to myself. I'd also downloaded the full bank statements from May until now. The hotel charges. The restaurant receipts. He might have thought he was halfway out. But financially, he was still very tied to me. Around 8, my phone buzzed. Not him. An unknown number. I stared at it for a moment before answering. Hello? There was a pause. Then a woman's voice. Softer than I expected. Is this his wife? Ashley. My stomach clenched, but my voice stayed even. Yes. I'm sorry to call you like this, she said quickly. He told me you found out. I did. Silence. I could hear her breathing. He said you're filing for divorce. I am. Another pause. I didn't know he hadn't told you about quitting, she said. I thought you guys were already basically separated. Of course she did. He's been sleeping in our bed every night, I said calmly. Until yesterday. The silence on her end stretched longer this time. That's not what he told me, she whispered. I closed my eyes for a second. Of course it wasn't. What did he tell you? That you were distant. That you barely spoke. That it was over except on paper. A strange, hollow laugh escaped me. We were planning a kitchen remodel in April. She didn't respond. He told you he loved you, I said quietly. But he also told me he was working overtime. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was stating facts. There was a tremor in her voice when she spoke again. He said he was moving out soon. He probably was, I said. Once he felt secure. That word hung between us. Secure. With you, I added. She inhaled sharply. I didn't mean to wreck anything, she said. And for the first time, she didn't sound like some villain in a movie. She sounded young, confused. How old are you? I asked. 28. 5 years younger than me.
He told me you were cold, she said, that you didn't care anymore. I felt a flicker of anger at that. Not at her, at him. He didn't fight for us, I said. He replaced us. Silence. Is he really filing? She asked. I am. And he's okay with that? I thought about his face that morning, the way he looked more cornered than heartbroken. He's scared, I said. That's not the same as devastated. She was quiet for a long time. I need to think, she finally said. I didn't sign up to be someone's transition plan. That phrase hit harder than I expected. Transition plan. That's what you are, I said gently. She didn't argue. When the call ended, I sat there, staring at my reflection in the dark screen of my phone. I felt oddly calm. Not triumphant, not vindictive, just awake. Eric came back inside a few minutes later. His expression was unreadable. She called you? He said. Yes. He looked frustrated. Why would you talk to her? Why wouldn't I? He didn't answer. What did she say? He asked. That she didn't realize you were still fully married, I replied. His jaw tightened. It's complicated. No, I said. It's not. He paced again, that same restless energy from the night before. But something had shifted. He looked less certain, less in control. She's upset, he muttered. I'm sure she is. He stopped pacing and looked at me, really looked at me. You didn't have to involve her. I stared back at him. You involved her the second you told her you loved her. That shut him up. The next few days moved fast. I met with the attorney. He was calm, practical, direct. When I laid out the timeline, the hidden account, the transferred funds, he nodded slowly. You did the right thing documenting everything, he said. Eric hired his own lawyer by the end of the week. Suddenly,
He was less defensive and more cautious. Conversations became transactional. Who would stay in the house during proceedings? How to split accounts? What to do about the savings? Ashley stopped calling him as much. I could tell. The tension in the house changed. He checked his phone more, frowned more, stared at walls longer. One evening, about 10 days after everything blew up, he stood in the doorway of the living room while I was folding laundry. "She's not sure she wants to do this," he said quietly. "Do what?" I asked without looking up. "Be with me, like this." I set the towel down slowly. "Because it's messy?" I asked. He didn't answer. "She liked the version of you that was brave enough to leave," I continued. "Not the version that waited until he got caught." His shoulders slumped slightly. "I didn't think it would implode this fast," he admitted. There it was. Not remorse. Logistics. "You built it on lies," I said. "Of course it collapsed." He stood there for a long time. "I don't want to lose everything," he said finally. "You already did," I replied. That was the last real conversation we had. By the time he officially moved out 6 weeks later, Ashley was taking space. The apartment in Lohi never materialized. The separate account became a legal point of contention. And me? I stayed in the house. Not because I was clinging to it, but because I refused to be the one displaced by someone else's half-finished escape plan. The day he came to pick up the last of his boxes, he lingered by the front door. "I never meant for it to end like this," he said. I believed him. He just never meant for it to end at all. He wanted overlap, comfort and excitement, stability and thrill. He thought he could slide from one life into another without the ground giving way. As I watched him drive off, I didn't feel victorious. I felt clean, like someone had finally turned on the lights in a room that had been dim for months. The HR call wasn't the worst moment. It was the moment I stopped being in the dark. And once you see everything clearly, you can't unsee it. You just decide what you're willing to live with. I decided I wasn't.